is how many classic, amazing grandparent figures there are. And Kim, you just modeled that for us in a wonderful way. I felt like I was 7 years old again. So how does the sermon fit in with that? Well, the engine needs fuel. Where does the fuel, the motivation, the energy, the call that will power us over the hill, where does that come from? Our scripture this morning is from the Gospel of Matthew, the 6th chapter. I'm going to read verses 19 through 20, and then the scripture concludes with the verse that I will share with you in the sermon. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust consume, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust consume, and where thieves do not break in and steal. Let us pray. Holy One, be with your servants now and your servant, that the words that are heard and the words that are spoken would be found well-pleasing in your sight, you who are our rock, our strength, and our place. Amen. A Presbyterian minister and colleague of mine, Patrick Wilson, wrote a sermon on this text once that has always stayed with me, and it helped shape my own sermon, and I would like to publicly thank my friend Patrick. He was at the Atlanta airport, sitting on the runway. Actually, he wasn't sitting on the runway. He was in a plane that was sitting on the runway. Just a little joke to make sure you're with me. Anyway, lots of planes waiting to take off, not going anywhere. What to do? What did he do? What to do? What should you do when you're in that situation? Well, you know what he did. It's what we all do to pass the time, to quiet the anxiety, sitting there waiting to take off. You know, you look out the window and there's the wing. It looks kind of short to you. You've never noticed that before, how short that wing looks. And every time you move, it kind of bobs a little bit. You think about calling the flight attendant and saying, I'd like to report a flimsy short wing, ma'am. But your pride stopped you from looking foolish. So Patrick did what we all do to quiet the anxiety. He reached out to the pocket in the seat ahead of him for something to read. Red book. Not too bad. Could have been worse. Like emergency instructions for landing at sea. Came across an article titled A Young Mother's Story. Someone told how she had been obsessed with her social standing and public visibility and had begun to resent all the demands of being a mother. And it wasn't until one of her children became seriously ill that she realized her misplaced priorities. The article ended, she filled with joy, watching her child playing on the floor, saying, this is it. Shall your treasure be also. And of course that's correct. Jesus is correct, isn't he? Like falling in love, we attach our hearts to someone or something, and then our treasures follow. There are examples everywhere. Since it's football season, and I know there are more than one of you here, along with me, the football fan. A while back, longtime Green Bay Packer nemesis Brett Favre became a Viking. And grown Viking fans who all of their lives, football lives, had hated Brett Favre, their hearts suddenly captivated. You know where the heart is, there goes your treasure. Spent good money on purple jerseys with the number 4 and Favre. Or you find just the perfect cabin at the lake. Your heart thrills with the dreams of the future, and you meet with your banker to talk about matters of treasure. Or there are pictures of starving children, and our hearts go out to them, and we find money to send. Where your heart is, there your treasure shall be also. Jesus is correct. It's stewardship season, and it's clear to me to see what my job is, isn't it? Sure. It's up to me and the session and the choirs, Steve and the band, and Jerry and Paul and Sue and Jan and Wendy and Nancy, the musicians who lead us. It's up to us to win your hearts. That's it. If we can cause you to be moved and affected, then your hearts will go to God and your treasure will follow, and we'll have the money we need for our budget. So, how are we doing? I want you to know that I am trying as hard as I can to do this. I am having a blast in the process. Have I told you that lately? How fun it is to be able to do? I literally can't wait each Sunday morning to be here with you. And I can tell you, because I see them up close, that the choir is giving their all. They're letting me hang around with them, and I haven't so far messed up their song, I don't think. But they're so wonderful and committed. That Jerry Johnson is a wonderfully gifted director. I have had the chance to work with many, and I can tell you that she is superb. And when Jerry's gone, isn't it wonderful to have someone like Nancy as our assistant director? And when it comes to tickling the ivory, how about that tall Mary? And other players, Jan and Sue and Wendy. I mean, wow. And what a great session we have. Dawn and Steve and Jackie and Jan and David. So committed and hardworking. And the leaders of the councils of this church, Marcia Lewis and David and Roxanne and Emily and Jan and Sue. And property, Jean and Lee. What a fantastic committed group of people. Yeah, it's up to me and it's up to them to win your hearts. That's it. If we can be moved and affected, then you will give your hearts to God, and your treasure will follow, and we'll have the money we need. And I just put that out there to you as what we're about. So how are we doing? Are you at least wrestling with this question? I think most of us do. You know how it goes. I'd really like to get more involved in the church and the work of the church, but my heart's just not quite in it yet. I really do want to be a better steward of my money and give more, but my heart's not quite there yet. See, we do want to change, be different, do better, but, well, it's our hearts. It seems we have this heart condition. So where do our hearts lead us? Well, it's fairly simple to see. All we have to do is to look at where our treasures are gone. Now, over there is the stock market. You can make some money there, let me tell you. Big dreams can come from the stock market. So our hearts go there, and our treasure follows to the stock market, and they rise, and they fall, and they rise, and they fall. I have a friend. She lost a lot. She said to me, Gwen, it was just like somebody stole something. Or look again, climb up in the attic, over there in the corner, hanging on the back of that old chair, it's that coat. Remember? The one that you just had to have. Remember? And now you look at it and say, what was I thinking? How could I have ever wanted that? Oh, and before you leave, look there on the sleeve. Do you see where the moths have started? Or go down in the basement, over there in the back, underneath the stairwell, damp down there, you know. Can you see it? The exercise bicycle. Oh, remember? It was going to change your life, flatten out the old stomach. Oh, man. And now, how long has it been since you've used that? Oh, and before you leave, look on the handlebars. You see the rust? Sorry. You know, our hearts can be fickle. Like butterflies that can't decide where to land. Or children, 2 weeks after Christmas, moping around. Mother says, what is the matter? I'm bored. Nothing to do. But there's the truck. There's the fire truck. The one that you've always wanted. There it is that you got for Christmas. Oh, that. I'm tired of that. Hearts are fickle. And it can just eat you up. There was a man I knew in another place, been married 4 times. Divorced 4 times. Kind of sad, lonely. We talked once, John, I said, tell me about your wives. Oh, he said, they were wonderful. Not a stinker in the bunch. Then what happened? I don't know, Gwin. I guess I just got tired. Where your heart is, there shall your treasure be also, is undoubtedly a wise saying. But it is a sad and weary wisdom, which mocks us by telling us only what we already knew. You know, now, I'm not sure a preacher is supposed to say this. I think you're getting used to me saying things that I'm not supposed to say. But I'm going to say it anyway. I'm disappointed in Jesus. I don't know about you, but I hope for more from Jesus than that. Just a biblical validation of our fickle romantic impulses, which are played out in 2-bit soap operas. Come on. Is that all Jesus has to offer? Let's look again at that scripture. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust consume and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven where neither moth nor rust consume or thieves break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be. That's what he said. Treasure comes first. Heart doesn't come first. Treasure goes first. With one sentence, Jesus sweeps away all of our romanticized ideas upon which we so often pin our highest hopes. With one sentence, he tosses that. And instead zeroes us right in on our investment portfolios. He gives us the truth. The truth is, we lead with our commitment. We lead with our intentionality. We lead with our treasure, with our lives. And then our hearts follow. And we are changed. And that's the truth. Jesus looks at us this morning with a wry smile and says, you want to change? You want to be different? Then act that way. Some of you will remember the name Cary Grant, the movie star. For you of younger generations, think Cano Reeves or Brad Pitt or something like that. My mother's all-time favorite, Cary Grant. Just the sound of his name, Cary Grant, would make her swoon. My brother and I would sneak up behind her sometimes and just whisper in her ear without her knowing, Cary Grant, oh, she would make my dad so jealous. Smooth, refined, dignified culture. But not always. No. Born Archie Leach in grinding poverty. His family outcast in the English society. He didn't have enough to eat growing up. In an interview in his later years, he was asked, how did the transformation happen from Archie Leach to Cary Grant? And he said, I pretended to be the kind of person I wanted to be till I became that person. Who do we want to be? Do we want to change our life? Would we like to be more loving, a better partner, husband, wife? More involved in the church? Take a stand in life and say, I'm going to make a difference in this world. Do we want to change? We can. We can change our hearts. Listen, we can know the future. Really, we can know. I mean, no disrespect to Sister Lucille down at the fortune-telling parlor on the corner with the crystal ball. But we do not need a crystal ball to know what will become of us. Our souls are not up for grabs. Just put our treasure, our commitment, our life, where we would like our heart to be, our soul to be, and that is who we will become. In a church near the border, the session was having a heated debate. The question was whether to support a family health clinic, which was giving medical care to a large number of migrant workers, some of them undocumented. The side opposing the idea was led by Frank, one of the most respected elders and an absolute leader in this church. Look, he said, some of these people are illegal. They are taking jobs and resources from our community, and they do not belong here. But, came the reply on the other side, they're sick. They're children and women. Well, they should have thought about that before they left. Then it went back and forth, back and forth. The vote would have been divisive, so they tabled it to the next meeting. The next day, the pastor called Frank and invited him to lunch. They were good friends. They'd been together a long time now. It was a good lunch, and they talked about a lot of stuff, family and everything. And then, toward the end, the pastor brought up the issue and said, Frank, on the way back to work, how about going with me by the clinic? Oh, no, you don't, Frank said. I know you too well. I know what you're up to. I'm not doing that. The pastor said, Frank, please, would you just do it as a favor for your old pastor? And Frank said, I hate it when you say that. So they went. They found the waiting room just bristling with activity. Pensive young mothers and squirming children. Frank and the pastor sat down to watch. A nurse appeared and called one of the children, a boy about 4, little guy, who marched bravely towards the nurse, already rubbing his arm, or he knew he was going to get a shot. A few minutes later, he reappeared, now rubbing his arm in earnest, in pain, lips trembling, tears pushing out of his eyes. He looked, but the seat where his mom had been was empty. She had taken the baby into another room. He was alone, 4 years old, his arm hurt, and he started to lose to dissolve. But then, seeing a face that sort of looked like a grandfather, he walked over to Frank, crawled up the chair like a mountain climber, into Frank's lap, looked up into Frank's face, and then leaned his head up against Frank's chest. The little boy's head inches from Frank's heart. And almost like instinct, Frank's strong arms enfolded him. And the child's tears stopped. And Frank's tears began. And at the session meeting, his fellow elders were astonished when Frank rose to powerfully and forcefully advocate for supporting the clinic. You see what happened? He did not want to go. His heart was not in it. But he went. He invested the treasure of his time. And Frank was changed. Who do we want to be? What do we want to become? This church is on the cusp of something. The church has a future. This church has a future. But what is that future? The engine is on the hill. And listen to me. I believe that there are many and wonderful things that may yet happen at PCA. Building on your beautiful and fruitful past, which innovated new ways of being church. That's how PCA got started. New ways of being church. Doesn't it have a nice ring to it? New ways of being church. There are yet, friends, more new ways to be church. There is no shortage of ideas and visions to embrace. But to do that, we need you here to begin to pledge if you do not pledge, to increase your pledge if you already pledge, to attend church, to call others and invite them to attend, to join the choir, to volunteer on a committee or council, to make a difference here and in the world. One concrete way to start is to plan right now to attend the congregational potluck on Wednesday evening, November 9, given by the Stewardship Committee here at PCA at 6:15. And listen, if the preaching hasn't convinced you, and the music hasn't moved you, and our hopes and dreams for where PCA hasn't rung your bell yet, and your heart's just not in it, then maybe, just maybe, you should consider offering your treasure first, your time first, your life first. For I have been authorized, and I am prepared to say, that if you do that, your hearts will change, your church will change, and as they do, so too shall the world be changed.